where it is, you have to worry about where it is and what it is. And I really think, and a lot of people feel the lines are set up backwards.
And they knew right after they were done, they knew, and they couldn't go back and change it.
But we're stuck with this physical plan of it.
Right.
But I still think, what will come out in our study of the hours and those things is that there's definitely more staff than there was 8 years ago, 6 years ago, 4 years ago. That's very clear and easy. But as far as having an audit done, that's something different. And I think we do need to look at that possibility. The other thing on the sheet, the top one is eliminating elementary principal position. What we did basically is took the salary and benefits of the elementary principal. That's what that comes out to. That's not what he's getting paid, obviously. But we need to look at, of course, if you look through New York, he's making $123,000 a year. I finally had to bring it up, Ron. I had to after all this time. It's still there, and we just laugh about it all the time. But that we really need to look at that topic and what we want to do with it. So.
When is the time to have that discussion?
Right now. Yeah. No time like the present.
Absolutely.
I believe we need to move forward and get the interim in as soon as we can, so we can follow through on the school and needs improvement plan and work on our teacher evaluations and get that settled and at least get the intern going and then we can look from there on how we want to move with the rest of the administrative.
So can you help us understand the different scenarios? I mean, obviously we know that, I guess the two that we do know is to replace what the principal does. And if you don't replace, you know what they're not doing, and you know what Michelle's going to end up doing. But what about Dean of Students? How does that work? What's the
The Dean of
details?
Students is a non-administrative position. So basically, the person is dealing with like discipline issues, daily functions of the day. They're not going to do unless you get some permission. If it's an internship, that's a little different. But they will, if Dean of Students, if they're non-administrative, can do no evaluations.
Okay.
So with we have about 75 evaluations a year, would we say?
How long does an evaluation take?
Well, the evaluations and the state's estimate, which I think is low, is 6 to 8 hours a person.
6 to 8 hours per
With the
person
new
for 75
process.
people?
Yes, with the new process. So it's going to take longer just because we don't know the process.
Yeah, it's
We're not
new.
used to the electronic,
Right.
the system. But and not all, I mean, they're going to be a little bit different, but it's going to be approximately that. So if you drop one administrator, you're looking at two administrators doing, 38, 39 of them a piece instead of 25. So that's the quickest and easiest thing right off the bat to look at is the APPRs. We also then, have the curriculum, which is obviously important. Michelle and Ron have 3 different curriculum jobs. Ron, if you want to just talk, and I hate to put you on the spot here, a little bit about all the curriculum that falls under the elementary that Michelle has to talk about more at the high school end.
There are the biggest 2 things with curriculum right now at the elementary are math and ELA, of course. That's certainly being the focus of APPR and student achievement. We're still in the process, and it's going to be an ongoing process. This is not something that's going to be done in a year or 2 years, but trying to adopt the Common Core state standard in both math and ELA. This is a huge undertaking. Our staff is really, I think, probably light years ahead of many of the other staffs in the county, but certainly also around the state, especially when it comes to ELA. They have a very good, solid understanding of it. But again, it's a process. They have to implement all the new standards plus the 6 different shifts. Just to give an example, at grades 5 and 6, they have completely already revamped how they're teaching ELA this year. Not only how, but also what. It used to be novel-based. They had to get rid of the novels because again, knowing that they're looking at nonfiction, just a whole conglomerate of things that come together. That's a big part of the curriculum that the elementary principal is engaged in now, and I foresee that that's going to be, someone's going to have to continue to do that, to be a leader on that. We are just beginning now the entire math Common Core state standards. This again is just a huge shift where the content areas are being taught differently and at different levels. We are not going to have a new program in place next year. That's the advice all across the state that's being given. Don't go out and buy a new program. Wait for a year, wait for the commercial development of these products to become available. So again, whoever's doing this job at the elementary level is going to really have to be working with the teachers closely to make sure that they're integrating the old programs that they have been using with a new Common Core standard so that the kids are ready come 2013, the state assessments. It's going to be, it truly is a great amount of work to get that ready. We're not quite as concerned in the social studies and sciences, only because, again, there are no state standards for that yet, no Common Core standards coming out, but those are being integrated more and more to ELA. So again, all of those things come together. The next big part of the puzzle for the elementary level is special education. This is generally where the vast majority of our students become identified under either a 504 plan or under an IEP through CSE. So again, a great amount of work goes into that part of, and I guess, I don't know if I want to call it curriculum or not, but certainly sitting with the teachers, talking as a team effort, working the students through the response intervention process before they get to the 504 and get to a CSE. So those are all things that go into every day here.
Plus, you may want to just touch on for next year, your set. Is that,
Yes.
sorry, you won't be here to touch on that.
The entire comprehensive educational plan as well. It's starting to be implemented currently. It needs to follow through next year again. We're talking about those other two paradigms coming through state ed, which are data-driven instruction, which is huge. We really have to get that going. And involved in that is figuring out what sources of data we're going to be using, what kind of local assessments, what kind of regular interval assessments we're going to be using, and then also differentiated instruction. That's the second big piece of this picture. Again, that's all falling under the guise of the SEP plan, the consolidated or the comprehensive educational plan. So there's just a tremendous amount of constant activity. So like I always had one hand and one foot in a different fire at each time. So again, those are the things that, besides discipline, that are happening at the elementary level.
So from Dina's student's perspective, I'm thinking that you still have two people. Is it really a good split of the work duties? Are you freeing up enough of one duty to allow someone, to do the principal duties? I mean, you still have two bodies here.
My curriculum leadership is in a different sense than Ron's, because 7th and 8th is similar more to your elementary, because you're still doing your ELA and your math assessments, and we do a 7th grade or an 8th grade science assessment. But you'll see that as they shift to high school, it really becomes more independent within departments and within the course structures that are being put in place. So right now, our 7th and 8th grade ELA is our ELA teacher at 7th and 8th grade is Marcia White, and our math teacher is Tara LaPointe. So they're working on the Common Core shifts and the same kind of things of implementing data-driven instruction and differentiating to prepare those kids for the assessments. But the rest of the people, the high school has not been affected yet by this Common Core shift. Theirs goes into place next year. But right now, they're trying to build lessons. They're required to have 2 lessons before the end of the year where we put ELA into the content areas of science or math or social studies, history, agriculture, everything. That's a common theme that all of them need to do. And then the math shifts in the high school are going to be really more predominantly just affecting the math department. So that's where the curriculum is kind of going in that area. The other thing that a lot of the high school teachers will be involved in is what's called SLOs, which is the student learning objectives, because there aren't state tests to evaluate all teachers on grades 7 through 12, so they have to come up with student learning objectives of the most highly populated classes that they teach, and then that will become what their evaluation system is based on for pre-assessment, post-assessment, and then observation evaluations based on what they say students should be learning in their classes. So I see a lot of push next year. It started this year for the high school level, but there will be more push next year overseeing all of those people. But they truly work fairly independently because there's one chemistry teacher, there's one physics teacher, there's one AP biology. At the same time, we've got 2 teachers going to a summer institute for AP U.S. history and AP European history. Jim is rewriting the AP biology curriculum that he has to use in his course. So I guess it's more course driven to how are the high school teachers involved in their curriculum at this point, not ELA / versus math.
It's probably not a fair question, but one of the things that was done last year, looking at our school versus other schools on the similar side, I think Lisbon was one of them that did not comparison. And I believe at the time they had the administrator, single principal.
They also have a curriculum coordinator too.
Okay, that's what I'm wondering if we know
Right.
what the differences are and
They
how
have
the
that.
impact on it is.
What's your job?
I guess I don't know.
Basically, all the stuff that
Right.
Ron Thomas did his,
Yeah.
the title, the AIS, the response to intervention, curriculum, the mapping.
Is that
And that's
something?
what a curriculum person does.
Okay, so would they also have a dean of students at the same time?
They don't know,
Okay.
Could the dean of students pick them to do these up?
yes.
How much is it?
If they're qualified.
If they're
If they're qualified.
Right,
They wouldn't
yeah.
necessarily
It
have.
has to be
Depend on
somebody,
who
and
it
if you're
is.
gonna be curriculum of K-12, obviously you need to be pre-well first.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
What's that position worth? Do you have any idea?
for a dean of students,
Yeah, for something like this, where they could do that.
a curriculum or a dean of students.
Like, well, some-
Because you're gonna pay more for a curriculum
Okay,
specialist
okay.
than you are going to for a dean of students.
Okay.
Some schools use dean of students, right off their faculty. And,
That's already employed,
yes,
picks up the additional responsibility?
no, they might just go to dean of students
Oh,
and
okay.
not teach anymore. We had talked the option of using a possible intern, a teacher here
Mhm.
who is considering going into administration, creating up their duties for all but like 1 or 2 of their classes,
Okay.
and then having them be the dean of students K-12. But that, it has to be negotiated, it has to be, through the union. I don't want us to say just because we think about it, that means it
Are
happens.
the dean of students part of the bargaining unit?
No. Well, they would be if we included it. What that would mean though, for the internship and for that person, they would do no administrative duties. One of the things we would like to contract in, if that were to happen, is, for that person's experience, just have the union agree to let them do like 5 observations or 2 or 4, so they get that experience in their job. So, if you're going to go be a principal somewhere, you need to have that experience.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So you-
But that would have to be, that's again, like when Sherry White went out of the union into the CSE position, we have to every year sign a memorandum of agreement, so that that position doesn't just get completely yanked out of the union. Because that loses, another one of their people if they cross over.
So is it marking a teacher's salary probably, or?
Usually,
Yeah.
now it depends too, like if you just make them straight dean of students during the school day,
Mhm.
then you may not look at adding, to the salary. If you're then adding on basketball games, concerts, dances, those things, you might be looking at increasing the salary per event or, per hours or whatever. So those are the things that you have to look at.
In the past, has the union let that happen, or is it not an issue?
We've never had dean of students here, other than in the administration, we had Michelle serve in the role of a dean of students, but we've never taken it out of the union here. Other schools have,
So this would be a first time.
yes.
Is it a 10-month position? position, is it a 12-month position?
It's whatever you set it to be. And obviously, at this point, our teachers are all 10-month.
Mhm.
So that, again, we have to be a negotiating thing. But if you're making them more a true dean of students, they won't be here in the summer. Because there wouldn't be students here in the summer. One of the other things, just to throw out, you know, in the past, for, 8 years now, we have taken our title back in-house, which means one of the administrators has always done all the title grants, and then oversees that throughout the year. 8 years ago, we used to pay BOCES for that service. And if we go back to BOCES for the title service at this point, it's, Carol, I think it's about $18,890, but then it's aidable.
On all of it or percentage?
It's aidable to, it costs approximately about $4,500, would you say? And I don't know because I didn't look at the exact amount, but it would be approximately that, which is what we figured out is doing 8 years ago here, is to pay one of the administrators here that amount.
Sure.
So that it is comparable to what it costs the district. In looking at possibly losing the elementary position at this point, and not knowing who would do it, we have put some of that, well, we, as of tomorrow, we'll be putting that position back into BOCES today.
Okay, so that takes a little bit of the,
Yes.
how much time is that really? I mean, is that a lot of time?
Well, in the summer, it's about 900 hours.
Yeah.
It's,
You're 18,000 off.
the bulk of the summer, it is, and the bulk of the summer is massive. I mean, go ahead, Ron, if you want to talk about summer and then throughout the year.
The summer is massive. It's, the grant itself runs somewhere between, it all depends on the year and what they're going to allow us to do or not do. It's anywhere from, I think, first year it was nearly 100 pages, now it's down to 75 pages or so. But now that we're a school in need of improvement, that has bulked that back up, because sections that we were able to ignore in prior years, we now have to do. So just the grant part of it in the summer, out of the 8 weeks, it's quite a bit of the time. And even last year, I think it was due on the last day of August, I had it well done, and that your school needed improvement, now you got to do all this other stuff. So last week I was scrambling and had to postmark a day ahead of time, luckily. Then I was told, deadlines don't really matter, so don't worry about it. But nonetheless, it's our history that we've always had it on time here. But now, again, with the school need of improvement, there's also a school need of improvement grant. That's to the tune of $27,000. Not a great deal of money, but it's a help. So again, now we have 3 grants for the Title I, Title IIA, and, I'm sorry, Title IA, Title II, which of those things, and then now school improvement grant. And the SEC and the SQR all fell right in line with all of the title. So it is a,
So if we went to a BOCES,
It's a title.
that they would do all that.
They would do
Just
all
for
of
the
that.
title, or all of them?
they would do all of this.
All 3 of them?
Yes. Now, there are
The
still
school-
other grants here, 611 and 619, that I do. And I can still sign off on it. And I'm the superintendent, that can no longer be the sign off for the title and the overseer. So that's why.
I mean, I think it makes sense to. It doesn't make sense to do a position and not do anything. There's enough work to be done in the body. It appears that way anyway, but does it make sense to try to hash out what it would look like if you had a, whether it's a curriculum developer or, to see what that would look like financially, that would be. And if we could make it work, I mean, I guess part of it is, could you really put it together and make it work? I don't want to, I hate to jeopardize the well-being of our students to save $30,000.
Would BOCES pick up the work for school in need of improvement in that grant also? Would that fall under title? I know they work together, but
They,
I think there's a separate poster in addition to, isn't it? It's like-
it is, well, no, it's a comprehensive package.
But on the other.
Let me put it this way. Just this year, supplemental education services. Talking with another district that has that full service, they've yet to have fare number one. My concern on this is that under title, I had to set aside approximately $31,000 to